Welcome, everybody, to the Jim Acosta Show. It is Thursday. I'd like to call it Friday Eve here on the Jim Acosta Show. As you can see, the great Norm Eisen is with me. Norm, how are you?
Always better when I'm with you, brother Jim.
Well, we have seen the white smoke rising from the Vatican. That means, yes, there is a new pope. This new pope is American. I will discuss that with TV news legend Chris Matthews in just a bit, unless Norm has some thoughts on that. But I was going to start off by saying, score one for the truth. Despite Trump's attempts to whitewash what happened on January 6th, despite his attempts to rewrite the history from that day, as he continues to insist the 2020 election was stolen from him, it was not. He still does that. Trump's lies suffered a major defeat today. He withdrew the nomination of Ed Martin for U.S. Attorney here in Washington. That is where I want to begin. I just saw the NBC News alert just a few moments ago. Apparently, he's considering Jeanine Pirro of Fox News. I think Saturday Night Live has called her Judge Boxwine. We can put that to the side. But Norm, your thoughts on this? I mean, it is good news for the truth that Ed Martin is no longer under consideration.
I thought he might move Alina Habba in as the replacement, but he's evidently contemplating even lesser legal lights. Jim, the secret of the era of Trump is that the emperor has no clothes.
Yes.
And there was such, on January 20th, it was like the Wizard of Oz, and the past 100 days have pulled the curtain open. So what you saw was first he was exposed by all the litigation, and then there's been a cascade of defiance. And the latest is his own party breaking with him in the Senate to say, no, we do not want, as the U.S. Attorney in D.C., one of the most powerful U.S. Attorney positions in the country, we don't want somebody who has fraternized with and embraced the most extreme anti-Semites, somebody who's never been a prosecutor, somebody who has defended and even celebrated the Jan 6 insurrectionists. That kind of a person is not suitable. And that comes from that's not from the Democrats, that's from Trump's own party.
That's right.
So, that's the fear factor is much, much less than it was 100 plus days ago.
Well, and I'm not sure this is a profile encouraged moment for Tom Tillis, the senator from North Carolina who started this, but he does deserve some credit for saying, I'm not going to support this person, which kind of got this party started. It is still an illustration of the GOP's cowardice that somebody who praised an individual wearing a Hitler mustache, Ed Martin did that, he praised somebody who had a Hitler mustache, was ever being considered for U.S. attorney. He is as bad as a nominee as Pete Hegseth was for the Pentagon or Kash Patel over at the FBI. But Trump obviously didn't want to invest anything into this. He said, I'm very disappointed that I'm only one person. He says, I can only lift that little phone so many times in a day. So there you go.
It must be the outstanding success of Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon that leads Trump to go back to the Fox News bench.
No kidding. Wow.
Another, the chaos and instability and, frankly, danger to the American people, to our allies. The United States military is the anchor of global stability.
Yeah.
If you put a Fox News host there, what did you expect? It has been a mess. Yeah. Now he's going to do the same in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Hey, make my day.
Well, and Pete Hegseth,
I think I think he's just funning with us, Jim. He knew we were going to come on the Jim Acosta show at 4 o'clock. And so he just put that out there to have some fun with us.
He's a hate watcher. I think he's a secret hate watcher. He watches all the time. He doesn't want to admit it because that would be a win on the side of truth yet again. But I mean, Judge Jeanine Pirro, The only thing I can think of is that, the boxed wine industry must be elated in all of this. I think that, does she have any? I mean, I suppose is she really a judge? I guess she's a judge. She was a judge. That's why she's on the five.
Yeah, I don't think she was on anybody's short list for the
Maybe.
United States Supreme Court. She may have. I'm not certain of her exact judicial credentials. It
Yeah.
may have been traffic court or a slight one step above. But be
Jesse
that as it
Waters could
may.
still be the national security advisor. I'm still rooting for Jesse to be, yeah, the complete Fox cabinet.
um, and I just, I do not think that using the cable television um, talking heads as your kitchen cabinet, I do not think that is wise. But to have them as your real cabinet is even
Yeah,
worse. So we'll
it's
just
something
have to
else.
see what happens. The amazing thing, if he does double down on the Ed Martin nomination with something even worse, it just will explain Donald Trump's calamitous decline in the polls. The first to go down was Elon Musk because he
Yeah,
brought a chainsaw to government where he needed a scalpel. But then you saw Trump start to plummet. They knew Musk was an anchor, by the way. They made the Wisconsin Supreme Court a referendum, the people versus Musk, and it was a landslide. But
yeah.
then, the anchor got wrapped around Donald Trump, and he's at or busting through in some polls the 40% floor because the American people are not stupid. And Donald Trump is not able so far to adjust and pivot. So he's going to keep plummeting. And, expect, unless he can turn things around, expect a lot more landslides.
And Norm, when he says in response to Kristen Welker, "I don't know," when the question is asked, "Aren't you supposed to uphold the Constitution?" You and I haven't had a chance to talk about this. There are some things we take seriously from Trump. There are some things we don't take seriously from Trump. But if you put those comments from Trump in the pattern of just thumbing his nose at the courts, being on this collision course with the judicial system in this country when it comes to migrants and so many other issues that you've worked on, where do you place this in terms of where you're concerned?
Well, I don't. First of all, there's a debate going on. Was when he says he doesn't know if he has to follow the Constitution, was that ignorance? Or was it intentional? I think it was intentional. I think his lawyers over there in the White House, he's surrounded by a bunch of sycophants, and I think they're telling him that over 200 years ago, the seminal case of American jurisprudence, Marbury versus Madison, which established Article 1 passes the law, Congress, Article 2 of the Constitution, the executive president executes the laws, implements the laws. If there's a dispute about the meaning of a law or its implementation, that's for Article 3, the judiciary. That's American checks and balances. Somebody in the White House is telling him, oh, no, you don't have to listen to Article 1
I
or
think that's
Article
it.
3. You decide what the Constitution means.
Yes. Even though he
So
took the
I,
oath of office, and yes, I've seen the comments that were reminding us he did put his hand on the Bible. Trump and the Bible, not a good relationship there. It's never,
I think he skipped the Bible on his second
I
inauguration,
think he
Jim.
did.
It's
Yeah.
because of the hand-shaped singe mark
It got a little
that he
too hot.
left the first time, at first inauguration. He just did it without a Bible second time
He was worried about that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where the Ark opens up and all the laser beams come out.
around.
But, Norm, the other thing I got to ask you about, because you've been working on this Voice of America issue, you help keep Voice of
Yes,
America alive. Now Carrie Lake is
yes.
trying to ram OAN down the throats of the people over there at Voice of America. It's just a hot mess. Yeah.
That is so shocking. But the DC circuit had another thought about this. We just got a big order overnight in the group of cases where I represent journalism organization, Reporters Without Borders. I have
Yeah.
labor clients. And the DC Circuit ordered that the payment spigot relating to U.S., American Global Media Abroad, all of these associated outlets, that those payments have to be turned back on. So
Yeah.
Kerry Lake and Donald Trump's attempt to destroy American Global Media, not working.
Yeah.
As has happened over 125 times, Jim, the courts
Yeah.
have said, not so fast, Mr. Trump.
I
You're breaking the law.
I'm so glad you've been on the case, Norm. I mean, and on many cases in this regard, and I
More
guess
than 60 at this point.
unbelievable.
We've brought or worked on or represented witnesses or others in more than 60 cases at this point.
Yeah. I think he's hate watching you too, Norm. I mean, and the other thing I saw you on the TV the other night talking about Trump's crypto scams, which has been an obsession of mine for several days. I talked to Chris Murphy about this a couple of days ago on the
Yeah,
program.
yeah.
This has been sort of an unofficial Trump corruption week on my program because I've been highlighting all the different ways he's been trying to scam Americans. And, you know, the Trump crypto scam might take the cake for all of them. I mean, what do you think?
I believe it's the worst example of conflicts and corruption in the modern era for the presidency. Here you have President Trump, and my colleagues at Democracy Defenders Action and I issued a big report that's gotten a fair amount of attention, really going deep, doing the analysis. Here you have a president, almost 40% of his net worth is in crypto, and he's going to regulate crypto, loosen the crypto rules,
Yeah.
and he's going to take in foreign investment relating to his crypto. I mean, it's a double whammy of conflict. And the American people, again, they don't like it. Even the crypto industry, which was so pro Trump initially, saying, you're dragging down the reputation. Can you imagine? This is
That's
a
saying something.
currency that is used. It's a currency that's used for drug transactions,
Oh, yeah.
human trafficking, money laundering, and like they're complaining, you're ruining our reputation.
Yeah.
Of
Well,
course,
they're not lying.
there's legitimate, many, many more legitimate uses for crypto. And I actually support digital currencies.
Sure.
They have their place in the financial marketplace of the 21st century, of course, but they've got to be properly regulated. There was some news today. The Republicans tried to jam through a crypto bill in the Senate. The Democrats said, wait a minute, even a couple Republicans, wait a minute. If we don't have tough rules, we don't establish strong standards, the Democrats want restrictions on Trump's crypto conflicts. We're not going to pass this bill. So the Senate is holding strong, as they should, on Trump's crypto conflicts.
Yeah. Norm, I just finally, I have to say, this may be the first time, maybe the second time you and I have been live together. Since that very first time, you brought me into the Substack machine. And so I once again have to thank you for making me do that. You gave me the nudge. I was like the little kid on the side of the pool. You were like the big brother who said, and just pushed me into the deep end so I would start swimming. And I
Well,
thank you for it.
Jim, I would have. I kind of did a preemptive strike with our former home CNN because when you left, I surely would have walked out behind you. But I was a step ahead of you, and I still maintain good
Really good.
relationships there. I still go on some of the shows. I talk to some of the people, but
Yeah, I love
Cable's
them. I love
loss
them.
was. I love almost all of them. But Cable's loss, I do. There's
I
wonderful,
have a lot of
wonderful
friends
people, as
there.
you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
Yeah, a ton of friends.
Yeah.
But as you know, you're the one who taught me that in an autocracy, in an authoritarian regime, you took this on in the White House briefing room. You saw it firsthand. They yanked your press pass first. You know the dictatorial aspirations. You got to be truthful, not neutral. And
And
that, as Christiane Amanpour says,
that's a
our
great one.
colleague, our former colleague, and that's what you do here is Substack. I love it. And friends, stay tuned. Jim and I are friends on the screen and off the screen, and we're always thinking about other things we can do
We're,
together.
we've been plotting a little bit. We don't want to give away anything just yet, but we've been plotting a little bit. We'll keep that conversation going, Norm, and we'll just make that a tease for everybody else watching, if I may use a cable news term there. And you're right, there are not two sides to a story when it's a matter of right versus wrong, and Norm Eisen knows that better than anybody. Norm, great to see you.
Good to see you, Jim.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks so much. All right. That's the great Norm Eisen. And you know what is wonderful about Norm? I'm going to bring in Chris Matthews, and I think of Chris Matthews the same way too. But Norm is the ultimate happy warrior, isn't he? He is just the ultimate happy warrior. You cannot, you can't just get the guy down, and that is the way to be in this day and age. If I may humbly put that assertion forward, that a happy warrior is the best warrior in this time. And when we're fighting authoritarianism and autocracy and so on, that is what you need. You need that sort of a thing. Now, I was going to have Chris Matthews come on in just a moment and talk about the new American Pope. It says that he is not available at the moment, so we're going to keep working on that. Chris Matthews apparently not available. I'm texting my producer Matt, my industrious, hardworking. That's the great Chris Matthews right there, right now. There he is. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Jim. Thank you so much.
No, that's okay. I call it the Substack machine because it is a machine that we are building. It's like the plane that we're building mid-flight, and sometimes the connection is there, sometimes the connection is not there. But Chris, welcome back. Great to see you. And you were saying when we were getting going there, I could just make out what you were saying, that you were happy about this announcement that the new Pope will be an American for the first time. Incredible.
Yeah, all the discussion for weeks now has been since Francis died that it would be probably an Italian Pope or possibly somebody from the Philippines. The dreaded notion is it would be somebody from Africa and very conservative, but it didn't happen. It was this guy. It was right out of the conclave. I mean, this guy I think was directing traffic over there, and he's an American, so he's spoken so unlike Trump today. He spoke um, in Italian the whole time, and I thought, what a way of connecting us to Europe, the old country to many people,
Yep.
and he made us feel like we're part of that world and they're part of our world. And it was a communion of saints, if you will. It was great. And he didn't.
Yeah.
He'll come here. He'll speak with an American accent, probably a Chicago accent. We'll go, wow. And we're going to go, wow.
Apparently, he's a Cubs fan. He's a Cubs fan.
He's also speaking as a Democrat. Pope Leo the 14th, that's a direct in line with Leo the 13th, Rerum Novarum, the first pope to speak about the Industrial Revolution and the need to avoid socialism and unbridled capitalism. He was for labor unions, collective bargaining. He was for a living wage, like Bernie Sanders, a living wage. He was for a lot of the social programs that the New Deal brought in the 1930s, way ahead of time. He's a real, I think you have to say, if you're in any kind of Democrat, lowercase or uppercase, you're going to like this Pope because he stands for what you stand for. It's really fascinating the way he picked, and they have to pick it in a matter of minutes, really. Once he gets elected, the white smoke is up, and he's got to have a speech ready. This is faster than the Academy Awards. I mean, he has to have that long speech ready, and he had a name ready all the way. He had Leo ready. Leo the 14th. I think it's a great time, for anybody who calls himself a Democrat in the world. This guy is somewhere with you.
Yeah. Well, and Chris, you raised such a great point, and it's something that may be lost on some of the younger viewers out there, is that there is such a thing as a progressive Catholic. We used to have them in this country. Well, of course, John F. Kennedy, the first Catholic president, Joe Biden, Catholic.
Yeah.
And that's been lost because of the abortion issue. It's become so polarized. And there are a lot of American Catholics who wish the Pope would be Pope Francis. I should clarify that he had been more conservative, but that's not always the case in the Catholic Church. Yeah.
It's a little unfair the way our editorial writers and publicists generally write that Robert Casey, the governor of Pennsylvania, he was an out and out liberal on every issue except abortion. He was totally a liberal for child health and welfare. He did all those programs up there. Very progressive guy, but yet he was tagged as a conservative because he was anti-abortion. There's a few people like that. I think his son, who got defeated in the last election,
that's right.
agrees with that. He was more moderate on abortion. No, I think that's the Catholic Church does that. You got to know when you go to into the pews in Catholic religion, Irish guys, Italian guys, Polish people, the usual notion of what a Catholic is. About half them are MAGA people. They just are. I got a couple of brothers like this. I got to live with them, but except one of my brothers is breaking with Trump on the issue of Ukraine. He just says we got to be for the freedom of Ukraine, and this Russia thing is awful. He wrote a letter to the Allentown newspaper attacking Trump on that, which is a daring thing to do. But I think Catholics are going to. I think most Catholics agree with labor unions. They believe in a living wage. They don't like the word socialism. They may like some of the realities of socialism, but they may not like the word because they don't like communism. They just don't. Yeah. Catholics hate communism. But I think the moderation and the call to arms for working people, I think the tougher this economy gets, the more people are going to be talking about working people. They just are.
That's right. Well, and the other thing that we should keep in mind too, and Pope Francis was a big believer in this, was being tolerant of migrants. And this new pope spent part of his time in Peru. That was his parish, the country of Peru, for many years. And so he's obviously going to come to this with that same kind of mentality to some extent that Pope Francis had when it comes to this issue of migration. And there is a fissure in the Catholic Church over this. I mean, if the tweets are correct, apparently Robert Prevost, when he was the cardinal, tweeted something that was critical of J.D. Vance when, J.D. Vance was putting out there that you're pro-family first and then pro-other things after that. Apparently Cardinal Prevost said, actually, that's not true. And sort of getting really deep into some theological discussions there that Catholics care an awful lot about.
Yeah, well, we'll find out because he'll tell us. This new pope's going to tell us where he stands.
Yeah.
He's going to let you know where he stands vis-a-vis that new convert to our religion, J.D. Vance. But, I think you have to go back to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's and to God the things that are God's. And you got to figure out where the state comes in to protecting the border and where human Christianity comes in terms of grabbing people off the streets who have been here 20 years and going to church and going to work and paying into Social Security and not getting a nickel out of it. And you got to say, why are they being grabbed off the streets? And why are innocent legalized?
4-year-old
why are we doing this?
4-year-old kid.
I am a moderate. I believe that if Trump had done one thing, just shut down the border, that would have been enough. And you don't hear any criticism of that. Nobody, not a pipsqueak out of any of the Hispanic leaders. Nobody's saying open the border. Nobody's saying open it.
Nobody's saying that.
They're saying be kind to people.
Yes, that's right.
I think that's a big part of it.
That's exactly right, Chris. And the other thing too is, apparently MAGA world is not happy about this. I was mentioning this a few moments ago. Steve Bannon was raising questions with Piers Morgan about the Cardinal, now Pope. Megyn Kelly was criticizing the Pope's Twitter account. So you can already start to see those gears turning over there, Chris.
Yeah, well, he's the leader of 1.4 million Catholics. And he gets the respect from a lot of Protestants and Jewish people, especially in the case of Francis. And I'll tell you one thing, the more this guy identifies with Pope Francis, the better for him. Yeah. And I think in the end, Pope Francis was constrained by the Curia. He once said, I want to be buried as far from the Curia as possible. I mean, the Curia, it's like Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa. You go into these countries as a leader, there's so many people opposed to you inside. The what's it called? What's Trump called Washington? Anyway, it's the state inside the state.
Yeah, the deep state. Yeah.
You got to deal with them. And so this Pope, we all thought that Pope Paul VI, when he came into office after the great John Paul XXIII, we thought this guy is going to change the church rule on birth control. It's going to get done. It already came out of a commission. It was ready to roll. He was already ready to read the script, and he pulled back. And instead of fixing the issue, and I mean fixing them, because the average family in the Catholic Church used to be like my 5. I came up with 5. My
Yeah.
wife came up from 5. They're a little, and some families were bigger than 5, but there was no birth control. And now most families, when you go to church, you'll see 3 kids. That's just the way it is.
That's the way it is.
3 kids. And so he didn't do it. He came out. Here's what he did. Pope Paul VI, instead of changing the rule on birth control, he announced that we could eat meat on Friday. Nobody wanted meat on Friday. Everybody liked tuna fish. That's what Catholics call it.
I grew up eating fish on Friday. That's what we did. And my other Catholic friends in high school, if I didn't have fish on Friday, I would get a lot of abuse in the school cafeteria at Annandale High School in Virginia. But anyway.
And the only thing that stopped us was there was a mercury scare about swordfish for a while. And we couldn't get swordfish, but it was fish sticks and it was tuna fish. And that's how you knew you're Catholic.
Yeah.
But he got rid of that. And I think that was, I don't say stupid, but it was the wrong decision to make. People wanted birth control to be legalized.
And last thing, Chris, I have to ask you, and this is maybe slightly tongue-in-cheek, slightly in jest, is it possible the Vatican was trolling Donald Trump at all? I mean, after Donald Trump came out, posted this thing of him dressed up as the Pope, and then the Vatican, and then the Cardinals choose an American Pope. I mean, is this divine intervention? What is this?
Let me go a little deeper. I think the Catholic Cardinals are a little deeper than that. I don't think they're getting even like Trump. They're not interested in the latest scorecard of abuse and grievance. I thought what I liked, I looked out into the crowd of St. Peter's Square. You can see it tonight on the news. Those faces were happy. They weren't into the East versus West rivalry. They weren't into how much we dislike big shot Americans or even Donald Trump. When they saw this new Pope, they saw him. They didn't see Trump.
Yeah, very
good.
I
think it's so great. And the fact that he was part of the Vatican, that he was sort of playing the role that Ralph Fiennes played in the movie.
Absolutely. I think that is so fascinating. And that movie is just absolutely brilliant.
Right.
The way it just lays out the internal politics that, of course, have always been there, and I suspect played out this time as well. Chris, great to see you.
People should go see Stanley Tucci, Ralph Fiennes, and John Whitman. I think all 3 of those.
I agree. If we could have given a trio of Oscars to those guys, it would have been perfect. It's such a great movie.
Great. Thank you.
Chris, great to see you. Thanks so much. Thanks for jumping on.
Big day for America. Bye-bye.
Oh, I agree. Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate it. The great Chris Matthews. I'll bring Tara Setmayer on. She's been waiting patiently. And, sometimes divine intervention happens quickly. Sometimes it happens at its own pace. And that's what happened with Chris Matthews. And there's Tara Setmayer. I have Tara. She's in her car. Her signal is completely solid. Tara, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm joining you on the go, but there was
okay.
a bit of a storm happening here in the DC area, as you know. And so my meeting went a little late, and I said, I'm not going to miss being on with you. So I said, I'll just be stationary, and we could do it from the car.
That's okay. I've done this before. I did it in my old job, too. You're right. I'm seeing out the window. It is pouring down rain. Duke is not going to want to go for a walk, as I usually do after my show is over. So I'll just have to pour a glass of wine early. And speaking of that, apparently Judge Jeanine might be Trump's pick for U.S. Attorney in D.C. Did you get that little alert too?
I just did, and I heard what you just did with that about the wine.
I mean,
Yeah.
Here's everybody. Stay thirsty, my friends.
Good Lord. It's just, again, it's part of the cacistocracy, the worst, most unqualified people running the government. And that's just another example. I mean, Ed Martin is a terrible human being, and he's a racist, and he's a January 6th sympathizer, and he is a conspiracy theorist and was completely unqualified to do his job. And how do I know all of this? Because I used to debate him on CNN. Interestingly, you may remember this, Jim.
I didn't know this.
Ed Martin was a CNN paid contributor in the latter half of 2017.
Wow.
And
I must have been too busy to notice that.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, you were actually doing yeoman's work and doing good reporting then. But yes, because I remember I was like, wait a minute. this Ed Martin guy, why does this sound familiar? And I went back and I looked. And there are multiple videos of me in 2017 absolutely destroying Ed Martin on multiple panels. And I have to say that one of the few times I've ever actually lost it on air because I was so angry, I slammed the table. And it was on Anderson Cooper's show.
Wow.
It was with him because do you remember when Donald Trump insulted those families in Niger?
Of course, I
Right?
remember that, yes.
And then they were saying how, because he said something horrible to the wives or something well, they knew what they signed up for or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then that was when John Kelly was coming out and everyone was like, well, John Kelly has lost a son and he's the chief of staff. And they kept putting out how, well, Trump didn't call John Kelly or somebody, Obama didn't call John Kelly right away when his son, and they were just trying to make it seem like it was okay.
What
the
about
way that Trump?
Yeah.
Right. And I literally slammed the table and said, stop using General Kelly's dead son as a political prop. How dare you?
Absolutely.
That was in direct response to Ed Martin.
Wow.
So I find it very interesting that in none of the reporting do you ever hear that Ed Martin was a former CNN contributor and he was fired from CNN because of racially insensitive comments that he made on his radio show?
Really? Well, apparently,
Yes.
I mean, that's what sunk this nomination. And thank goodness for two things. One being just persistence and the Google, because Ed Martin was undone by the Google. And, I had a former assistant U.S. attorney on last week or the week before, and they were all raising these issues of all these crazy cockamamie things he had said, that he had endorsed or supported this person who was a white nationalist or a neo-Nazi and had a Hitler mustache. And Ed Martin's basically like, I don't recall that. I don't recall that. And people are, and Dick Durbin has the video. They had the damn video. It was in the Washington Post.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what kills me. It's like they are so arrogant. They think that we can't find the video. You said this. It's on video. The Google machine never lies. You can find it. Well, that's not true. It does lie, but you can find it on the Google machine. Stop it. And so I'm glad that people like Officer Fanone and others have been very vocal about this and bringing this attention to everyone. And I just want people to be reminded that the righteous anger of the American people can change things.
Yeah,
and
he had called Fanone a fake cop.
Examples.
He had called Fanone a fake cop, which is one of the most disgusting, despicable things you can say, especially if you're supposed to be somebody who's a member of the law enforcement community. If you're going to be the U.S. attorney, you can't go around calling Mike Fanone a fake cop after he had been almost murdered by these insurrectionists, these traitors on January 6th. And the other reason, Tara, I wanted to have you on is because I wanted to preview the fact that you and I will be at the Webbies together, courtesy of you, coming up on Monday, because your Seneca project won a Webby for the American Girl ad, which is just absolutely fantastic. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jim. Those who are familiar with our work at the Seneca Project, with what Michelle Kinney and I have built there and what we started as just two women who wanted to make a difference. We started it with our own money. We're a very small operation, and with determination and grit and the support of grassroots, because we didn't have big mega donors supporting us. It was literally a grassroots effort when we started Seneca Project, and still is. We get very frustrated when we see sometimes where the money goes, and we're like, we're here trying to do the right thing. Support us, please.
Absolutely. That's right.
Defending democracy was not a business decision for us. It's literally life or death, not only as women, but as Americans, as we see our democracy on life support because of what's happening. But American Girl was really our crowning achievement, and it was conceptualized by Michelle, and we had an amazing ad team that put it all together and what our idea was. And we won the People's Voice Award, which means that all of you who are watching right now are part of our win. And that's why when you guys went and voted for us, and you and Jim, we're so grateful to you for platforming us and giving us the opportunity.
The least I can do.
And we were like, you have to be a part of this with us, which is why we wanted to invite you. And we're so thrilled that you'll be joining us because you really were instrumental in helping us win. So we're grateful to you for that.
No, I'm happy to do it. I love this. I'm so excited to come. And I'm wondering, should we do a Substack live from the red carpet? Are we allowed to do that?
I think we certainly can. I mean, the red carpet is it kind of moves along because there's a lot of people, but we could do it from the side of the red carpet, once we get off, and then there's a cool reception. So before we go inside, we can hop on real quick. I think that would be fantastic. We should do it.
I love it. And this speaks to, I mean, the Webbies are a big deal now. There was a time when people in television and film, I'd be like, oh, the Webbies, oh. I mean, I saw all the people who were lined up to show up there on Monday night. Like Snoop Dogg's going to be there. I mean, a lot of people there. And this just goes to the power of independent media, the power of new media.
Yep.
Places like Substack. This is just, it's the new world, folks.
It's true. It's true. We described it as the Oscars of social media because it really is. And there were like 13,000 entries from 70 different countries that entered into the Webby Awards to be considered. And so that's what I'm saying. Like for us to be not only nominated, that's an honor in and of itself, but then to win in our category was just extraordinary. I mean, you talk about a David and Goliath story. We were in a category up against Disney, Universal Pictures, and a documentary on Caitlin Clark from the WNBA and a luxury brand ad campaign. And American Girl won. Thanks to all of you guys. It was a grassroots effort. The people won it. So this is just as much ours as it is theirs. And here's the cool thing. So the Webbies have a tradition where you can only do a 5-word acceptance speech. That's it. It doesn't matter who you are, how big you are, how famous you are. 5 words, and that's it. So you have to wait and see what our 5-word acceptance speech was. We put out a call for people to send in their suggestions. And I'm telling you, we have some clever folks out there. But so we're hoping that we get a chance to go on stage to give our 5-word acceptance speech, because otherwise they'll just put it on a projection screen and then everybody sees it. But to get on stage would be really, really cool. So let's hope. Let's hope and pray that we get to do it on stage.
Well, we're getting some suggestions for you coming up in the comments, and some of them I just don't think, when a new pope has been announced, I don't want to tempt fate too much.
Oh, are there some MFers involved? Are there some words? Listen, the Webbies are very edgy. And last year, Julia Louis-Dreyfus won Podcaster of the Year for her amazing podcast where she spotlighted the incredible stories of older women. Because she felt that older women, have so much to offer in their life experience and their wisdom, and they're often, especially in Hollywood, kind of pushed aside. So she wanted to really spotlight older women, and she won. And her 5-word speech was never, listen to older women MFers.
That's awesome.
Yes, she's fabulous. I adore her. That was the highlight of my night last year, was meeting her. She's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and somebody has offered another suggestion. I'm just going to say it's, and this is a comment. I'm just reading comments. It says Donald Trump kissed my ass. That was a comment. I'm not saying it. Charlie Kirk or whoever, don't clip that and make it sound like I said it. I'm reading a comment. That's one suggestion from the audience.
That would be Donald Trump kiss our asses, because we're up there representing women in America and all of us who are democracy defenders, so it would be ours, because we're all in this together.
Amazing. Well, I will let you get on your way. You've been so kind to pull over in the middle of this giant storm.
It's okay.
Talk, but Tara, I can't wait to see you up in New York for the Webbies. It's going to be a heck of a night, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm thrilled and honored. And, they'll probably throw me out, but anyway.
No, it's our pleasure. And hopefully next year, when you win a Webby Award for your show, we'll all be able to celebrate again. So our pleasure. Looking forward to it. We're going to have a great time. We'll post lots of pictures for folks. And, again, just to leave on the note of 2 things positive that people can remember, that the righteous anger of the American people can make a difference. So do not exhaust yourselves into believing there's nothing you can do, because every day we are flooded with this fire hose of fuckery. But you know what? It will take every little win we can. And where we can
Yeah.
stop them, great. And that should give us the energy and the fuel to keep this fight going, because it's going to take all of us. So
Yeah.
we
We
can leave it with that.
will weather this shitstorm as happy warriors. That is how
That's
we will
right.
do it.
That's
Tara,
right.
great to see you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Congrats, Tara. I'll see you in New York.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Excellent. Take care, Tara. All right. That was very nice of her. Tara was kind enough to pull over in her car and join us live, which I'll take it. Listen, if I got to wait a few minutes for Chris Matthews to get ready and they got to reset the router or whatever they're doing out there in California, I'm happy to do that. If Norm is, getting his shot set at the last second, which is how we were doing that earlier with Norm, totally fine with that. This is what we do on the Substack machine. This is not the Louvre. Nobody's going to take this and hang it up in the Louvre, and it's an oil painting like the Mona Lisa or the Sistine Chapel, perhaps might be the better example today, given what's happening in the news. But we put the pieces of the puzzle together, and hopefully you, the viewer, get to enjoy this, or the listener, if you're listening to this, get to enjoy this. But thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. One final thing, because I mentioned this as I was tap dancing, waiting for Chris Matthews to get going. I mentioned this because earlier today, I went up to Capitol Hill with my producer extraordinary, Matt Hoy, who also can shoot. He can do everything. And we tried to catch up with some of the lawmakers up there on the Republican side as to why in the world they would waste their time voting to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. This has been an obsession of mine. I talked about this in the early days of this program. It's not the Gulf of America. It's just not. We love America. I have George Washington over my shoulder right here. I love this country. I love everything about it. Well, not everything about it, but mostly everything about it. And that's not the issue. The issue is we're not going to take the silly rantings and warped imagination of the president and make that our reality. But unfortunately, up on Capitol Hill today, the Republicans in the House of Representatives got together and they voted for a ridiculous piece of legislation to appease the dear leader, as somebody just said, to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And they just don't understand. The American people, rational, independent thinking Americans, are not going to call it that because it is silly, goofy nonsense. It's goofball stuff. If you do that, if you vote for this, you are engaging in goofballery. You are participating in goofballery. And Donald Trump is the king of the goofballs because he put this forward as just an idea. He's sitting on the commode. He's on the golf course in Mar-a-Lago, and he comes up with these cockamamie. Believe me, I covered him. He puts zero thought into many of these cockamamie ideas. And the Gulf of America is one of those cockamamie ideas that he gave zero thought to. And anyway, the Republicans in the House of Representatives got together and voted for a bill to call it the Gulf of America, as if there's a giant sign, like when you go on Google Images or Google Earth and, it says Gulf of Mexico on the graphic in the Google. They think that there's a giant eraser that's going to be lowered by a helicopter and it's going to erase the Mexico and it's going to write in America. That's not going to happen. That is not how it works, people. It doesn't work that way. And so in my mind, in your mind, in the minds of rational, independent thinking people with a functioning brain, they're just going to continue to call it the Gulf of Mexico because that's what it is. So anyway, long story short, we went up to Capitol Hill today and talked to a bunch of Republicans to try to get an answer from them as to why they would waste their time on this goofiness. Most of them ran away from us. There was one member of Congress, I won't give it all away, who just would not answer the question. I walked down the sidewalk with him with my microphone trying to get him to answer it, and he just wouldn't do it. He just wouldn't do it. But Chip Roy and I did have an exchange, and it is something to behold, and you'll want to watch. Anyway, to my friends in the paid subscriber community, we're going to be putting that up later this evening as a special paid subscriber bonus for viewers of the Jim Acosta Show. So if you're a paid subscriber, you get to watch that later on this evening. And after it's been up for a certain period of time, I'll put it up in other places. But you'll get to see it first. So there you go. Something special from yours truly, your pal Jim. But in the meantime, want to thank Norm, the great Norm Eisen, who, I mean, what is he, what's his secret? Why is he so happy? I need to know the secret. Norm was a happy warrior today. Always great to talk to Norm. Always great to talk to the wonderful Chris Matthews. And it was terrific to get his take on the new American Pope, Pope Leo the 14th. Fascinating development out there in Rome and over at the Vatican. We'll continue to follow that. And of course, my thanks always to the great Tara Setmayer. I can't wait to see her up in New York. We're going to have an awesome time at the Webbies. But in the meantime, thanks again for watching. As always, still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. Have a good evening, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.